This week's blog post is the first of two on Beauport, the Sleeper-McCann House. And now for a complete change of architecture and style from Edith Wharton's The Mount, on which I just posted for several weeks. It's very different, even though this house was begun only a few years later than The Mount. Tucked away on the harbor of Gloucester, Massachusetts, is Beauport, the summer home built by one of the earliest Americans who made a profession of interior design. In 1907, Henry Davis Sleeper, 1878 to 1934, began construction of a small cottage in the arts and crafts style. Over the next quarter century, he expanded it into a showcase of a wide variety of interior design styles. Beauport was written up in House Beautiful as early as 1916 and has appeared in many national magazines since. It's a crazy, sprawling, charming home. Each of the rooms, by the time Sleeper died, 56 of them on 2 floors, has a different theme, often historical or literary. It's filled with a multitude of antiques, folk art, porcelain glass, architectural salvage, and more. When Sleeper's clients came to visit, they could point out particular windows or wallpapers that they liked, or even choose a room to have reproduced in their own home. Among his clients were Isabella Stewart Gardner, Henry Francis DuPont for part of Winterthur, and Joan Crawford. After Sleeper's death in 1934, Beauport was purchased by the McCann family, who preserved Sleeper's interiors. In 1947, their heirs donated the house to Historic New England. Today, Historic New England's knowledgeable docents lead visitors through Beauport, which is a very good thing given the complexity of the floor plan. It's also a good thing because Beauport isn't the sort of museum where all the artifacts are labeled. You let the docent fill in the big picture and immerse yourself in the mood of the place, rather than going from detail to detail. Quirky doesn't begin to describe this house. You'll know within the first couple photos whether you want to visit it or not. The side of the house facing the street has a lavish garden in the English style, informal rather than symmetrical and regimented. I've given you a link to one of my blog posts that explains the difference between French, Italian, and English styles of gardening. Even from the outside, it's pretty obvious that the layout of this house is going to be complex. What follows are photos of my favorite rooms on the ground floor. Mostly, I'm just going to let you look. Hit the pause button if you want to, because as I said, the place isn't plastered with labels on individual items. You should be soaking up the effect of the interior decor. In the case of the picture on the left, it's Sleeper's interpretation of colonial American style. This is a window with a sun motif. I really like this. It looks out onto Gloucester Harbor. Sleeper was particularly fond of glass, and he always displays it to its best advantage, in windows or with backlighting. Oh, how I miss having dozens of bookshelves. Not that mine were ever so architecturally appealing as this almost circular library. On the left is a Bostonian's idea of the United States of America. I thought that New Yorker cartoon that shows the East Coast and then pretty much nothing until California, I thought that was an original idea, but this has to be considerably earlier. This is the China Trade Room with a remarkable ceiling and a spectacular view on its walls rather than out of a window. The wallpaper from the 1780s was originally ordered by Robert Morris, whom you may know as a signer of the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the Constitution. He was also America's first superintendent of finance. My favorite room on the ground floor is the large dining room, which has a nautical theme and yet another great view of Gloucester Harbor, which you could see out the window if I'd been able to expose it right to get the interior and the exterior. Anyway, the blog post has a couple articles with more on Sleeper and Beauport. Beauport, as I said, is maintained by Historic New England. If you buy a membership in HNE, it gives you free admission via the North American Reciprocal Museum to many properties that are not even in Historic New England, such as the Ringling Home in Sarasota, Florida. There's also a URL at the bottom of this screen for more Gilded Age Mansion posts on this website. DianeDuranteWriter.com has hundreds of posts on sculpture, painting, architecture, and my other obsessions. To join the Sunday Recommendations email list, visit the URL that's on the screen or email me. And you can say, "Well done, Diane," or support my work and receive rewards by means of the tip jar on dianedurantywriter.com. As always, thank you for listening.